Thank you for having me. You know, I have to say, I am quite frankly sick of having to call for the passage of HALT. I recognize that I have not been in the legislature for that long, but does not take much to understand what the right thing to do is, especially during a pandemic, especially in regular normal times, but especially in a pandemic. And so I have to echo so much of what Assemblymember Blake said, which is that how long do we have to ask for this? This is not something that is hard to do. This is not something that is ethically challenging. In fact, keeping solitary confinement in place challenges and abuses our ethics and our morals and our standards as human beings. I feel like every time that we have to come together in this way, there's this inspiring amount of energy. We all come together to share this space. There are people all over the state that are just connecting us in a way that is raising awareness to say we are demanding this. We're not asking for this. We are demanding that this happen. And yet at the same time, I feel just devastated that we have to keep doing this over and over and over again. There is no place in New York State. There is no place in New York State for torture. That is what solitary confinement is. Right now, we are dealing with the most major public health crisis that we have ever seen in the state of New York with COVID-19. But we cannot forget that the public health crisis that has existed in our jails for decades is solitary confinement. And so this experience, while it affects all of us, we can use that as a way to leverage awareness to the very places that have been the darkest. And solitary confinement is one of the darkest places in our state. It is one of the darkest practices, if not the darkest practice in our state. The United Nations, I say this every time I talk, and I am like sick of hearing myself say this, but the United Nations dictates that any amount of solitary confinement that exceeds 15 days is a form of torture. And our laws in the state of New York exceed that number by at least another 15 days. It's not a direct attack. It's not a direct attack on the mental health and well-being of incarcerated New Yorkers. It is literally undermining their ability to be citizens. It is literally undermining their ability to be able to defend themselves, to be able to have justice for them. And so I have to say, we know the psychological effects of solitary confinement. We know that it has led to individuals taking their own lives. We cannot risk another individual taking their life because of the experience that they have had while they were in solitary confinement. I represent Rikers Island, and I have been hearing stories coming out of Rikers Island since the beginning of my term in January of 2019, but also since the beginning of this COVID pandemic. And I have to say, there is nothing humane about what is going on in Rikers Island or any jail, especially those jails who have solitary confinement as their practice and as their go-to practice, because they do not know how to transform the system, to look at a life and see a human being instead of someone else, someone who has done wrong in their eyes, who has not even been convicted in a jail. And so I have to say, as we are coming down on this COVID-19 pandemic curve, which is a good thing, we are not coming down on our energy or pressure to require and demand that the governor, when he gets this bill, sign it into law. There is no excuse. If he doesn't sign it into law, then what he is condoning is the torture of human beings, and every single person in the state of New York must know that. Thank you very much.